Hello and happy Sunday. So, to be perfectly honest, this video has been one of the hardest videos I've had to make, and I'm not 100% sure why. A lot of times things just flow, things just come to me and they just come out beautifully, and this one has been a little more challenging. So, I'm going to do my best and we'll see what happens. So, what is this video about? This video is about condemning others, having a sense of indignation and self-righteousness about the actions of others, and about the importance of humility, about self-examination, and about honoring the divine and the human in us. And I guess, this is probably why it's hard for me to do this video, because it's about a lot of things, but also about like what next, right? So I understand all this knowledge about self-righteousness, etc., but what do I do about it? So I'm going to start off by saying, I am doing these videos and I'm posting positive things about love. And like I said in my last video, if you see me in the day-to-day world, I recognize that I don't embody the message every second of every day. And that's going to kind of play into this video, which is that I'm human, that I am going towards the goal of being a better person, and every day I get mad here, or I don't show up the way I should here. And it doesn't make me a hypocrite, it makes me human. Now, having said that, are there times when I am being a hypocrite? Yes. That also makes me human. So I don't want you to think, if you know me in real life, that I'm full of shit. I'm just human. So I'm doing my best. I recognize when I fall short. I constantly am trying to do self-examination to be better. So that kind of ties into something that I posted this week, and I wrote a note on it because I didn't want to forget what it said. So what I posted this week is, if the lesson you get from Jesus hanging with sinners is you should hang with more sinners, you're confused with who you are in the story. So let me break this down a little bit. First and foremost, I think the word sinners can be really triggering, or the word sinner and sin can be really triggering. And so I want to pull that apart. So I don't think that we're inherently bad people, right? I don't think that we're born with this, like a lot of people think, this original sin. But I do think that we forget to look at ourselves and forget our own shortcomings and the areas where we need improvement. So to give you an example of this, I think this is where Christianity, I'm looking at notes because again, this is kind of hard for me. I think this is where Christianity and the spiritual world, why there was a division, right? So when Christianity began, when Catholicism began, there was very much a belief system of whether it was intentional or not, people interpreted it as, I'm a sinner, I'm bad, I need to deny the flesh, I need saving, I'm just this awful person, I need whiplashings on the back, right? And that just didn't quite sit right. So I think that's where I'm calling it a spiritual community, it's all spirit, but the opposite of that kind of started to manifest, which was, no, I'm divine, I'm perfect as I am, I'm beautiful just as I am, I was created perfectly, like I'm a good person and I'm powerful and I can create whatever I want and it's okay to have desires. And what I've learned is both are true-ish, right? So we're both divine and human. And when we get too caught up in one or the other is where we go wrong. And so what this video about is getting too caught up in our divinity, or too caught up in our self-righteousness, or too caught up in the fact that we know what's right and what's wrong. So me and my husband are reading The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis. And I read it in high school, but it came into my life again because of the topic of forgiveness. And if you watch a couple videos back, you'll know how that kind of ties in. So anyway, so it came back into my life, and it came across my husband's, one of his YouTube videos, I don't know what. And so we were like, well, let's read it. Let's read it again. So we're only a couple chapters in, but to give you a synopsis of, not of the book, but its intent. So the book is about heaven and hell, and it's about the people who are in hell, and they're taking this journey to heaven. Not important. So in the first couple chapters, it just gives a story of a few people in hell, and the message that has come to me from these different people's stories just in the first couple chapters is that every single one of them is very self-righteous and very sure that they shouldn't be there, right? So they're very sure that I was in the right and they were in the wrong. They did this evil thing and I had to call them out on it and I had to condemn them for it. And then they reacted in a certain way to me, so I had to react back. I didn't do anything wrong. It's them. And it gives a couple of stories of this, of just this clinging to this self-righteousness, this clinging to I was right, I'm right, I know what's right. And what's interesting about this book is that every single day, people in hell have an opportunity to go to heaven. And even the people who take the bus to heaven always choose to go back. They choose to stick to their self-righteousness and stay in hell versus going to heaven. So this, of course, is, I don't believe in hell on in a literal level. If you do, great. You might connect with this story more. But where I'm going with this is what we're seeing in our political world and our spiritual world, right? Very self-righteous people on both sides. So I know when I say that, the first thing that people are thinking are like, oh yeah, those people on that other side are so self-righteous, but they're wrong. No, on both sides, there's this sense of self-righteousness that we're holding on to. I'm right, you're wrong. And at the end of the day, I'm not sure how much that matters, but just this story of condemning them and everything I do is because they're doing bad things and I have to retaliate against the evil that is them. So I saw an example of this week and I got really triggered by it. So you see this a lot in spiritual teachers, to be perfectly honest, is that they start getting divine clarity. They start getting divine messages. They start reading, whether it be the Bible or spiritual books or doing meditation, whatever it is, they start feeling like, oh, I get it. And then they start getting like, they forget that they're still human. They get so wrapped up in their divinity that they forget that they're human. And then you see them start to condemn people. You see them start to think that they are the ultimate knower of truth, right? And you see this in every religion or philosophy. So whether it be Christianity, whether it be Catholicism, whether it be yogis, whether it be spiritual teachers, you just see it. And I've seen it multiple times in spiritual people that I followed, right? I've seen it in a couple where I was like, wow, they got it. They understand things, like, ooh, something's speaking through them. And then all of a sudden, their head just gets, ooh, and they say something and I'm like, oh my God, girl, that's completely hypocritical to everything you've just said. But they don't see it. So again, I'm kind of talking in big theories, so I'm going to give you a real life example. So anyway, so I have this person posted, and she's a spiritual, she talks a lot about spirituality. She's a spiritual teacher. She considered herself a spiritual guider. And in this post, she brought up a hot topic, a hot political topic. And she said, well, the first thing she did was she called people who oppose her view on this political topic a name. And it wasn't like the worst name. It was like a soft name, but she still called them a name, right? And then she went on to say how they are not Christian, how they shouldn't proclaim to be Christian, how they need to start asking themselves, what would Jesus do? And how they are being very Pharisee-like. And I'm really calm about it now, but I was so triggered because I just thought to myself, everything you're condemning them for right now, you are doing. You are being the Pharisee by saying that you are the ultimate knower of what it means to be a Christian, and you are the ultimate knower of you're the ultimate knower of how other people should say what would Jesus do. You're the ultimate knower of right and wrong. You have forgotten your humanity, and you have lost your important humbleness and humility in this moment. And my first reaction, I'm saying it really calm right now, was to do exactly to her what she was doing to me, which is kind of what I'm doing right now, right? Like, I'm telling her, what you're doing is not Christian. Don't tell me what I'm doing is not Christian. What you're doing is not Christian. Don't tell me what would Jesus do. You ask what would Jesus do. Instead, what we both needed to do, right, in this situation, is step back and literally, instead of telling other people, this is what Jesus would do, this is what a Christian would do, this is what a spiritual person would do, this is what a loving person would do, we need to embody that first and foremost ourselves. So for me, again, I'm not a Christian, but if you are, you might resonate with this. So for me, instead of thinking, all those people out there need to ask themselves, what would Jesus do? How about I go to Jesus, say a prayer, Jesus, what should I do in this situation? And let the answer come. Okay. And again, if you don't believe in Jesus, if you have some other spiritual, whether it be entity, whether it be just critical thinking skills, first and foremost, come back and change here. I've talked about that a lot. So anyway, so this happened, right? And I was just so worked up. I was so upset. I was just, again, just kind of like, biatch, like, you're not considering the X, Y, and Z, and what you're doing is X, Y, and Z. And I got all worked up, and I was all becoming a Pharisee myself, right? And I said, I'm getting really triggered by this. I need to practice what I preach. And the very first thing I need to do before condemning her back, which is not going to be the answer in any shape or form. I don't need to condemn her back at all. But the first thing I need to do is do some self-examination. So I said, God, universe, spirit, show me where I'm embodying the same exact thing. Show me where I am sticking to my righteousness, that I am sticking to that I am doing what I'm doing because they are bad. Tell me where I'm sticking to I am right and they are wrong. Show me. Show me. And nothing came at first, but later on that day, a friend reached out to me and she said, hey, I hear that you had a tiff with this other broker. And my very first response was, well, yes, I did. And let me tell you why, because she did this and I was just tired of it. And so I had to do this and I had to say this. And as I was talking, I was like, oh, here it is. Here it is. This post was a mirror showing me trying to get my attention to where in my life am I doing that exact self-righteous thing? Am I defending that I had to do what I had to do because of them, because of what they did? Where am I holding on to that? And that very same day, I was confronted with a situation in my day-to-day life where I did that. Whew. Okay. Right? So, what's the answer here? Right? Because I know people are thinking, so you just can never tell people when they're wrong. You can never call out evil. You can never, all you have to do is just focus on yourself and stay in your own little bubble. No, I'm not saying that. But what I do think the answer is, or what I have learned this week is 3 or 4, maybe even 5 things. Okay. So the very first thing that I learned is, going back to when I saw this post, it was first thing in the morning and I was in bed and I was scrolling because, it's healthy to scroll through social media first thing in the morning, start your day off, right? I got super mad. I was sitting there. I was just thinking of all these things and I was like, she can't do that and she can't do this. And all of a sudden my husband said, hello. And I said, oh, sorry. I didn't even realize he was there for like 10 seconds and I didn't even realize he was there, right? So the first lesson to me was come back to a space of love and peace. And I know that sounds super hippie. I get it. But that's the very first step, right? So for me, it was God was showing me first and foremost, here's love, here's peace, here's perfection. right in front of you, right in front of your face. Focus on that first and foremost. Let that fill up your day. Let that be your armor throughout the day, right? So focus on your husband and the love you have for your husband first and foremost, and just let that envelop you. And then go back out into the world, right? Now, the second thing that it taught me is that, as I start getting back into really delving into my spiritual life, which spiritual life is all life, but anyways, as I start delving into my spiritual life, as I start feeling guided, as I start getting more clarity on how to be a better person, that I always have to remember I am divine. God speaks to me, I speak to God, again, universe, spirit, whatever you call it, and I'm still human. I still can get it wrong. I can never be the ultimate knower, and I always have to come back and check myself. Always. I can't the more information I get doesn't mean my head can't get bigger because of it. So, giving an analogy for this, I was thinking of science. So in science, we talk a lot about, like I'm a scientist, science, I don't know, whoever's out there that talks about science, they talk about scientific theories. Now, why do they do that? Why don't they say scientific facts, right? And there are some things that are facts. Don't get all caught up, but majority of the things are just theories, right? And the reason being is that what we thought we knew for sure 5 years ago, let's say in technology, in medicine, is way different than what we know now. And we look back 5 years ago and we're like, oh my God, look how far behind we were. We've made so many strides. But the reason we've made strides is because we've left room for the openness that we don't know everything and there's more to know. We're not the ultimate knower of truth yet in the scientific world. So I actually looked up something on Grok because I was thinking about scientific theory, and I feel like it summarizes what I want to say really well. So it says, the confusion arises because science doesn't claim absolute certainty. It's a process of refining knowledge through observation and experimentation. So when we use scientific theory, theories can evolve as new evidence emerges, which some might interpret as weakness. But for example, Einstein's theory of relativity built on Newton's work, not because Newton was wrong, but because new data demanded a broader explanation. So I know that was a lot of words, but in our spiritual lives as well, we have to stay open to that humbleness. And how do we do that? For me, what I've learned over the past month due to the recent passing of a political figure, by following that figure's example, every single day I need to check my compass. Every single day. To be honest, it should probably be every single hour, but at least once a day I need to recheck my compass, right? When you take a journey, you constantly make sure you're still on the right path. So in the political world, we've gotten so far from asking what is right and what is wrong. All we're concerned about is being right. I'm right and you're wrong, right? So going back to the spiritual world, what I have learned to start to do, or what I have been doing, is every day, God, universe, spirit, love, how can I be used for your will? So if you're religious, God, how can you use me for your will? If you're not religious, how can I embody love and be a force for love in this world today? Whatever word resonates with you. And to constantly say, what is right here? What do I need to do in this situation? And I think it has to be a constant coming back. Am I on the right path? Am I on the right path? Again, because we're both divine and human. I was going to say something about that. What was it? Okay, can't remember what it was. But the next lesson is the answer that we can't change the political landscape? Is the answer that the world is just a horrible place and all we can do is focus on ourselves? And like I said before, no, that's not the answer. But I think what we're trying to do is there's this big problem I'm going to use the metaphor of a building. There's this huge, long skyscraper building, and we're at the bottom. And we keep trying to get to the top by jumping. I'm just going to jump up there, right? I'm just going to yell at this political figure or yell at that political figure or yell at that political side. And the answer for me that came this week is these problems are a reflection, a mirror of the human condition. Not that it's bad. I mean, it is bad, but you don't have to shame yourself about it, but it's a reflection of the human condition. So this righteousness thing that we're seeing in the political world is a reflection of the day-to-day human condition of, like I said, in my day-to-day work, I had a situation where I was really righteous about something. And I probably do that a lot, I'll be perfectly honest. So what's the step? What do I do, right? That's what I asked God. And like I said, the first thing was embody love. And the second thing was acknowledge the problem in yourself. Very small, little steps. Very small. I don't even know what the next step is. This woman that I had a tiff with in real life, I haven't reached out to her. I haven't tried to resolve the issue. I'm not there yet. Not there yet. But first and foremost, I recognize it's an issue. I recognize I need to let go of this self-righteousness, and I'm not sure what comes next. And that's okay. I keep hearing over the last month or 2 months is just take the next right step. Just take the next right step. And they're always very small, and they're always right in front of your face. So for example, when I was scrolling through this social media post, right in front of my face was my husband, right there. And I've experienced this a couple times when I get really caught up in big world problems, right? I'm like, oh, how am I going to fix this problem? And how am I going to get them to see that they're doing wrong? And blah, 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 blah. And the message that keeps coming to me from God is, calm down, Buddha. How about you respond to your mom who texted you a couple minutes ago to see how you're doing? How about you put down the computer and focus on loving your husband? Right? The way to build love in the world is through tiny little acts here and there, right? And I don't know what the next step is. I don't know how to change the whole political landscape, but I definitely know if we can't fix our sense of righteousness in our day-to-day living, there's no way we're going to fix it on this big cosmic level. We have to start where we are. And the one last thing I'll say on this, I think it's the one last thing I'll say on this, is for some reason I thought of Mother Teresa when I was thinking about this. And, I don't know a ton about Mother Teresa, but one thing that somebody told me when I was younger that stuck with me my whole life is, and I'm not going to quote her directly, but they asked her to go to an anti-war rally, or they asked her to go to an anti-war dinner. I don't know what it was. Anti-war something. And her response was, no, I will never go to one of those, ever. Now, if you throw a pro-peace rally, if you throw a pro-peace dinner, I will be there. And I think that ties into this message is I will not condemn, but I will promote.